Welcome to the Rotary Club of Martinsburg podcast, where service meets community. I'm your host, Kevin Brackens, and I'm going to connect you with the people, stories, and projects that are making a difference here in West Virginia and beyond. At the Rotary Club of Martinsburg, we believe in service above self. Each week, we'll dive into conversations with local leaders, volunteers, and change makers who are driving positive change in our community. From community initiatives to global efforts, we're here to inform, inspire, and engage. This conversation is made possible by Brackens Painting. Brackens Painting is the region's best residential and commercial painting company. When schedule and quality count on Brackens. We've got you covered. Hello, Bob. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for inviting me this afternoon.
This is really great. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you. Let's get started with your background. Where are you from? Where'd you come up? Education?
Sure.
All that stuff.
Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. Moved around a lot growing up, not because I was in the military. Dad did retail for a long time, but ended up graduating high school in western PA, a little rural town. Had 62 people in my graduating class, rather small. Went from there, went on to, education-wise, went on to a state school for Parks and Recreation.
Good school?
Slippery Rock University.
What's it called?
Slippery Rock University.
Rock, yeah.
The old, big, good old slimy pebble. And that's north of Pittsburgh. And enjoyed the program there. Got into that program because of my scouting experience as a kid. Eagle Scout. I guess a long time ago.
That's a heck of an accomplishment, though.
Yeah, but it influenced me, as well as my family background of being in the outdoors, being conservation minded. So ended up going outdoor recreation after that, nonprofits for a number of years.
Well, let's back up for a second. You said your education was in recreation. Was it recreation management? Was it administration, or how?
It was Parks Recreation. It was a focus on resource management. Basically more parks resource management. So, talking about forestry conservation, wildlife management, environmental biology, all the good stuff there. I kind of grew up in that. I mean, I like to share that is who I am. I mean, if we're talking about life goals or life vision, my personal vision is to get people outside. It's always been that. And I trace that back to my grandfather. He had a cabin out in the little town of Tynesta up in northern Pennsylvania. We'd go out on walks all the time in the woods. His favorite saying was, don't pay attention to where you're going, just look at where you're at. And I remember as a kid, probably 6 or 7, that and if you know anything about white pines or any pine trees in general, you pull off a set of needles, and there's a separate set of needles. Red pines have 2 needles, white pines have 5. And the only reason I know white pines pretty well is because as that young kid, he pulled it off, spread the needles off, and there's 5 of them. And he goes, W-H-I-T-E, white. And that's how I learned white pine. It was like my first tree that I ever learned about. And that's what kind of spurred me into scouting and Parks and Recreation and really this whole outdoor conservation ethic.
That's pretty cool. Slippery Rock has a Parks and Rec track that you take. And that was undergrad?
It was undergrad.
Yeah.
Did master's later on in life.
What was the master's in?
It was a nonprofit management.
Nonprofit management.
It was a working degree. Did it while I was employed a few years down the road. And that was from Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh.
When I was an undergrad, some of the most fun people I had met, because I went after the military at St. Joseph's University, and their recreation department, and they put on intramurals and team sports and outdoor rec programming. As a matter of fact, I helped them build up their outdoor rec programming because I had a background in rafting or hiking or that sort of thing. Just adventure sports, I guess.
Yeah.
And I actually went to a school in Garrett College.
Okay. Yeah.
Back when it was a community college back when I went there. And they had an adventure sports program, which it only took me about a year to realize I wasn't going to make much money. I was going to have a good time in this industry, but I wasn't going to make much money.
You don't.
So I ended up transferring from there and going to St. Joe's to learn. I chose psychology.
Right.
But the most fun people who were adults on campus, which was the people, the director, the assistant director, the associate director of recreation.
Oh, yeah.
And they were in the same building as the gym. And I would get like part-time jobs with them,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
helping leading groups and stuff like that. But they inspired me to apply to Temple University.
Oh, great.
And Temple has a sports and recreation
They do.
administration program.
They do. Good one.
Graduate level, which surprised me. I wasn't surprised that I got in. I was surprised at the hoops I had to jump through to get in, just the letters and the conversations. And they only accepted 9 people that year.
Oh, really?
And there's only like 25 throughout the course of the year. It's really, really competitive and selective. And it was, but I like that we were both on the sort of same recreation track.
Right. Yep.
And like you're all about like getting people outdoors. What I loved about it was everybody I was working with and alongside were just putting together good times for people. That's a good feeling.
We are the fun people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So,
and that's what's so diverse about the industry. It covers so much, and it's all about connecting people. Whether it's in intramurals, whether it's in a skills and drills program for little kids, whether it's in a family, holiday event, it's all about connecting people at a variety of levels. And it's the people I've met in this industry are so creative. Anything goes, and we're willing to risk it.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
I agree. So when did you meet Beth?
We just celebrated our anniversary, our 32nd year together.
32 years.
Yeah, and
Congrats.
we dated for 3 years prior to that.
How about it?
So we've known each other for a couple of years. Had a lot of fun, a lot of adventures along the way. So that's been exciting. She's every time we go to celebrate, it's like she's my fellow adventurer. She's not afraid of hitting the trail, going places we've never been before, trying new things. Has I think really grown both of us in our time together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what did we miss in your background? Is there anything else you want to share?
There's some generic stuff along the way. We've talked about my master's in nonprofit management, which, really helped, I think, accelerate my recreation. That's because right after that's when I went into government recreation for the first time. I had been working in nonprofits, and then almost 19 plus years ago, I went into local government recreation parks. And that's a whole new game, but it is where I'm supposed to be at. You land where you can make the most impact, and you enjoy doing it. I mean, what a combo! So that's been great. And I'm a certified Parks and Rec professional. You've done a lot of certification programs, and just trying to provide leadership, give back now at this point in my career. Just trying to give back to a lot of folks that are starting in the career, or encouraging people to think of recreation as a job.
Right.
It's not just, for a lot of folks, it's your first time job. It's your lifeguard, your camp counselor.
Totally.
It's you talk to most people and it's like, oh yeah, I was a lifeguard at that pool. Well, did you ever think about it as a career? I mean, currently where I'm at, I employ full-time staff in my aquatics program.
Right.
And pretty decent pay. So it's like most people don't think you got to get a real job, right? After that.
Sure, yep.
This is a real job. And we're certainly trying to encourage people to in fact, there's a new national effort for that too, which I'm excited to hopefully be part of that as well. So
that's really good. Yeah, my path went a different direction. Mine went more into commercial recreation. And I could have gone on the path of university recreation, campus rec, which I mean, it's a constant flow of customers there, right? It's amazing there.
High energy, all the time.
Let's jump into the Rotary part of the conversation. So when did you first hear about Rotary and what inspired you to join?
Well, those are two different questions, because when I first heard about Rotary, it was with my dad. He was a Rotarian when I was growing up my teen years. His second half of his career was he was a professional with the scouting organization, and part of that was you just became a member of Rotary. And it brought him a lot of joy, because I have his Rotary tie. Wow. He had the tie, he had everything that went along with it, just because he enjoyed the people, he enjoyed the impacts on the community, and so that's where I was introduced to it. That this is a good thing. So later in my career, I never thought about it in my early career. I was too busy learning. What do I do now? Type of thing. But my first Rotary experience personally was in Newark, Ohio. And that was, an invite from a local judge, actually. He was part of Rotary, and he said, yeah, you need to get in this. I got to introduce you to some folks, and we're going to make a difference. So that was an easy ask because I knew it was a good thing. It's like I felt honored, because I didn't think I was, Rotary material at that point, until I got asked. And that was a fantastic experience. That was a great club, and we did a lot of great things there. Share a couple of those things later on. But
what years was this?
Gee whiz, I'm trying to think now. Oh, probably 2012, 2017, something like that.
Okay.
And just had a great experience. They did a lot for the community. They had a Rotary playground there. It was fully accessible, and they maintained that on a regular basis. I remember us having a couple times a year we go for either cleanup day or go fix it up day type things, and really make it special because it was truly fully accessible from the surfacing to the access to the equipment. And that was all funded by the Rotary over the years, and it was multi-year projects, but also money to continue the maintenance or repair the surfacing and stuff like that. So that was one of their big projects ongoing. And then one of the projects that I was involved with there for multiple years was a program for rising seniors in high school called Camp Enterprise. And this was introducing high school kids to business, being entrepreneurial. And,
Wow.
We had business leaders in the community come in and for either multiple days or teach a session here or there, we hit, talk to kids about banking and how to make bank presentations and for loans and stuff like that. Talk to somebody, had some people come and talk about marketing. How do you, take your idea and get it out there? And, had some team building experiences too, because all these were group projects and you got to work with other people, whether it's your own employees or whether it's working with other people that your customers or community members, and so had some great team building. And it was just a 3-day program, but you got to see the kids really, one, grow in confidence, but also two, learn some really solid skills because some of them weren't necessarily looking to go to college. But they had some great ideas to, maybe I can do something, maybe I can start my own business. I just didn't know it until going through this program. And, we actually gave 2 scholarships to like this Rising Stars that were coming out of the program. And, I think we had about 50 kids each program every year.
That's really great.
As far as I think it's still going on. It's still a successful program. And it's seen as a benefit by the schools as well as the students that have gone through it have always come back and saying, yeah, this was, I didn't know what it was coming into it, but, business stuff. But, hey, it gets me in a class for a couple of days, at the end of the year, to actually saying, wow, I did some work and I learned some stuff. And now I'm going to, a lot of them are probably Rotarians today because of the program that Rotary did for these kids. And they're probably great business people and entrepreneurs in their community.
That's wonderful. That's a good seed to plant.
Yeah, it was a fantastic program. I hadn't seen that anywhere else. So
right, and then so you were there until about 17. You said
right. Yeah.
What's next?
Well, then came back. That was in Ohio, so my family's out east. So we came back out east, worked in Alexandria, Virginia for a while. Too busy there to join Rotary. Wasn't really encouraged, and so I missed that for a while. But when I came up to Martinsburg here. Again, another fantastic club, and doing a lot in this community and continuously growing, which I think was attractive. Plus, I now had the time and wherewithal to actually participate more. So that was fantastic. The club here in Martinsburg is, I don't know how you keep up with everything that you're doing. I mean, there's just so much going on and new things too. When I started, we didn't have the Hope Gala. Now they're in just finished up being a second year,
That's right.
program and being very successful. Started pickleball tournaments,
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's great about Rotaries. There's, again, you can dream and do so many different things. You don't have to be stuck in a model. This is what we're doing. This is what works, or what we're going to be doing. It's like, let's come up with a new idea, and someone runs with it. There's so many great leaders in these clubs, and Martinsburg is a perfect example of that. We were talking before about some of the members of the club, and every time you said a name, it's like, oh yeah, leader, and not leader as power, which they do certainly have in the community. But when I think of leader, and especially a Rotary leader, is somebody that is, living the motto of service above self. Their leadership is by example, by giving back to the community. And that's, I think, a lot of us that are in Rotary are doing that because we want to give back to the community. The community's done so much for us that we want to say, how can we give back? And Rotary is a perfect example of how we can give back in whatever way fits. Because, some clubs are just, one size fits all, and if you're not that size, forget about it. You're not going to be welcome here, or you're not going to feel welcome here. Rotary's never been unwelcoming. It's always been, hey, sit with me at lunch. We're going to chat. I'm going to learn more about you. And it's always been that place where you can fit in no matter what time you have, no matter what commitment level you have, what expertise you have, whatever money you have, there's some place for you.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And that's, no matter at what level, you're still making a huge impact on your community. And that's why we're here, is to, live hard, live long, and give back. This life isn't about taking. This life is about giving. And, we've been all blessed with, whether it's health, family, whatever it is. And, we all have challenges in our lives, but the thing about Rotary is that not only do you make an impact on our community, but you also have a family that is willing to help you as well. You're going through a hard time. We've all gone through hard times. And I've seen Rotary step up and say, you know what, somebody's in the hospital, and we fill out these big old cards and sign them off and send them. And it may seem like a little thing, but it's huge on the other side when you're the recipient that, oh, they thought of me. Maybe going to Rotary Club for a year, maybe 20 years, but someone still thought of me. And that's just to have that support is rare these days, and I think it's a reason why people, one of the many reasons that people should come alongside and do good things in Rotary.
So now you're in your third club.
I just have a new role professionally. I'm in Herndon, Virginia, Northern Virginia, and of course, the first thing I wanted to do is look at the local club, and so I've attended some meetings, and I've now.
Well, hold on. Let's. Yeah. I'm really curious.
Right.
How many clubs are in Herndon? Like Martinsburg is a very active Rotary area. With the Sunrise Club.
Right.
There's the Shepherdstown Club.
Right.
There's the Charlestown Club.
There's a lot of clubs around here.
Noon Club.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Spring Mill Satellite Club, which eventually will probably be its own club.
I'm sure.
And they're talking about a South Berkeley Club popping off soon, too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Was Herndon the same way, or was it a different sort of population?
It's different. And I'll say that part of it is population. Herndon is a small town in a large area. Northern Virginia is huge. Fairfax County is one of the largest counties in the country right now and continuing to grow. Loudoun County is the same way, continuing to grow. And Herndon sits there at 25,000 people in the middle of all that.
Wow.
Still growing, and expected to do so over the next 20 years. Is neighbor to Reston, which is a different flavor and certainly larger and certainly business oriented. But Herndon is a town feeling, and it actually is the Herndon-Reston Club because the Reston Club basically folded. And so Herndon kind of brought everybody together and saying, hey, let's try to do something together to maintain, the good stuff that was going on. And I think there's been a struggle there. And for whatever reason, it could be time, it could be, as with a lot of civic organizations, they tend to age out. And I'm thinking that's happening in this club. Just looking general observations of the population that show up to meetings. Meetings are much smaller than they were here in Martinsburg, which is typical of breakfast meetings. They have a breakfast meeting. I know breakfast meetings tend to be a little smaller, but I think they certainly do good things. I mean, they've got a breakfast for vets coming up.
That's nice.
That's and that's a fundraiser for some scholarship programs. We're getting ready for the Christmas holiday season and doing some stuff for kids. And they're also looking for some new things.
Well, hold on. So for people who might not know,
Yeah.
or people who are listening to this podcast are more than likely in our club. So
Yeah.
I'm used to a club with 45 to 65 people at lunch every
Right.
day.
Right.
We meet in a large room at the Holiday Inn. So what is that? What does the new one in Herndon, or the new one for you, look like? How many people typically? And
the meetings are typically about 15 to 20 people, and we max the room out. It's a small room in a place called Jimmy's Tavern, which is kind of the local tavern. It's been around forever, and Jimmy is supportive of Rotary, and he serves up some great breakfast food for us. But it's kind of cramped. I got to tell you, it's not the Holiday Inn. It's where you have a lot of room between tables. It's squeezed in there. We got this kind of the back room. But we also do some things that Martinsburg isn't doing. We actually do Zoom. We actually, for our physical meetings, we have people that dial in on Zoom, so they can be part of it if they can't be there physically. And then every other meeting is a full Zoom meeting versus in-person meeting.
is it weekly or?
It's weekly meeting. Yep. And there's a satellite club that meets once a month in the evenings, which is, I think, still growing. I think it's relatively new and trying to get its footing and stuff. I think every area has a challenge. When I was in Ohio, the timetable, life was busy but slower. And then coming out, certainly Northern Virginia is a totally different feel as how the pace of life. It's fast, and there's a lot of things going on. And I think, a lot of people don't make a time commitment because they have fully committed at work or family or whatever, and don't think that they can participate at a level that is meaningful.
Well, Northern Virginia is very multicultural.
Extremely so.
How's the diversity in the Rotary Club?
I think like most clubs, it can be a lot better.
Okay.
And I don't think that's been a specific outreach within the club itself to this point. And I think that's true of a lot of organizations.
Sure.
I know professionally, my organization, since I've been there, that's been a real focus change. We've actually hired somebody for recreation that is Spanish speaking, which is kind of the first Spanish speaking requirement that we've ever had.
Okay.
With the focus on doing outreach. I mean, we actually called it outreach in the position when we hired the person. And so, because we know the population of Herndon alone right now sits about 30% Hispanic, and the next one is Indian. We've got a high Indian population, and then African American after that.
Okay.
In the next 20 years, that's probably going to go up to 40 to 45% Hispanic. That's all the projections. So we have to start now. We're kind of already behind, but it's okay. We can just say we're going to start from this point moving forward and saying, let's be intentional about, reaching out to those people that are in our community, but we have not talked about yet. We haven't invited them yet. We haven't welcomed them in. And I think.
Are you speaking as recreation or as Rotary or both?
I was going to say both. I see that's initially I'm talking about recreation, but I'm using that to say that's where Rotary needs to be as well. And I think, just not be afraid of growth. I think there's always the challenge, grow your club by 10% or 5 people or 10 people. There's always, the president always has to set those annual goals and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think beyond that is don't be afraid of growth. I mean, if you have a meeting room that only holds 20 people and you've got 20 people, you may be satisfied with that. I say, let's not be satisfied with that. And if we outgrow ourselves, okay, let's do what's next.
Right.
Go from there. So, and so I've been invited. I haven't given my answer yet, but I've been invited to be president-elect of that club.
Oh, boy.
And I've only been there a few months. But I think they want some fresh ideas. And that's great, and I feel honored and humbled to be asked to a leadership position, and hopefully I can rise to that occasion and, help the club be an impact in the community, because that's why I really think Rotary should be.
I love that, Bob. Congratulations. That's a nice, like you say, it's an honor to be asked.
Yeah.
And you should follow up with lots of questions.
I have lots of questions.
Good.
I'm meeting with the president-elect after she gets back in the country in a couple of weeks. So
great. But in the in the vein of diversity and making a positive effort to reach out,
Yeah.
multiculturally, what traits do you feel make a good Rotarian? So if you're there looking at other organizations that had leadership or people, whether it's businesses, inviting them in, what kind of traits would you look for?
It's a good question. I think there's several different, and I think it's a spectrum. Somebody that's a leader in our community, and that doesn't mean you're the CEO of a business.
Right.
Leadership is at all levels, and I say that in my agency right now. I think that's true of any business. And I think a lot of people dismiss themselves too easily to say, well, I'm not a leader. I'm not the CEO. I don't make decisions. But I bet you if you're involved with your church and you run a clothing drive, well, you're a great leader. If you could be at the front desk. You connected to a lot of people because they see you before anybody else, and you're a leader. As well as a CEO. Hey, come on down too. We want you to be there as well. So that's leadership. I think is important. I think wanting to make an impact on your community, and that impact could be giving back, whether it's again going back to leadership skills. My dad was in scouting. They had a term that they used a lot, being a nonprofit. So I think a lot of nonprofits know this. It's time, treasure, and talents.
Bob, you're the fourth person to say that on this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, it's time. Can you make a time commitment? It is a time commitment, certainly. And, I think the time commitments in all of our lives ebb and flow. So if you don't have a time commitment now, it doesn't mean you can't be part of Rotary, because you're going to ebb and flow in your time availability. And I hate to use the cliche, if it's important, you'll make time, but that's true. But also, I know people, myself included, that I've been busy and I haven't been to as many meetings or many projects that I'd want to be involved with, but I know that'll change in 6 months. And so there's no reason why I shouldn't continue to be a part of the program and part of this great impact. And if I'm not busy, sometimes I'll just have the opportunity to give some funds and stuff like that,
Right.
The treasure. And then the talent, it's one of the great things about Rotary is, I think most people realize, is the connection. And if you're going into this with an idea that, these are great leaders in the community, I want to get connected with them so I can make more sales or whatever. And that may happen, but if that shouldn't be your primary reason to come in. That connection is like, oh, I've learned more about you, so I know where I can maybe use you on this project over here, or your resources or your connections that you have to help us with this kids program that we're doing in town. There's so many great nonprofits around Martinsburg here that I was so happy to be a part of, to see that. When I was in Parks and Rec here, I know Rotary sponsored or, supported some projects with some of the fundraising efforts. I was so happy to, be part of the pickleball tournament. It was happened to be at the rec center, and, that partnership was great. I was glad to and very happy to promote, and utilize our space. Didn't have to, but it was important.
Yeah.
Because I know that Rotary is going to change the lives of people in our community. And there's so many people in need. There's so many programs in need. Locally, I'm a big local person with community. Rotary's international, which is great. And there's a lot of great international stuff that's going on, from the traditional polio programs that is so necessary to see that continue. We don't see that ravage anybody ever again. To these great water projects around the country, around the world. I know we have people in Martinsburg that go to El Salvador. I know some people that go to Africa and have some great projects that directly impact. This changes lives.
People around the world, yeah.
And you don't think that your $20, $50, $100, whatever it is, towards the water project is going to Africa, and you'll never see a thing about it, but knowing that they actually, made a life-changing experience, we take it for granted. Turn the spigot on, you got water. and that, hopefully we're grateful for that. There's a lot of places in the world that don't. And
you're totally right.
And so that's what I have a lot of respect for Rotary, not only at the local level, but we're doing some great things internationally. And this gives you a chance to make an impact, even if you can't go to these locations, but you can still make an impact. And I think at the same time, share with local people, whether it's your, other people around the table, whether it's students that you're working with, to see that, because sometimes everything gets too big. You get overwhelmed, especially nowadays as you're getting bombarded with information overload. Rotary has that place where, we come together and we go, here's the impact that we made. Whether it's the Rotary Foundation has given X number of dollars and we built 3 wells, in these areas of need. Or, we're, supporting, autism, children with the Horses Through Heart program locally. So no matter what your interest lies, what your time commitment lies, what you think you can or cannot do, you can still be a part of Rotary and make an impact in your community.
Speaking of that, let's jump right into probably the final question, and that is, which program do you have the most passion and energy for, whether it's in the past or locally here in Martinsburg or in Herndon? Which one do you think we need to push to the forefront and make people aware of?
There's so many good ones. Only it's just a couple different ways. The one I had the most passion for, I think, was that Camp Enterprise I talked to you about. And I think it was impacting kids directly and giving them life skills. Because it's across time, but I think especially in that time that I was there and we were doing that program, and yes, it was pre-pandemic and stuff like that, I was seeing, you see light bulbs come on, and that quickly, that is like, wow, I made an impact. And you met for a year planning and prepping and getting people to sign up, leaders to sign up. And I mean, we had bankers and Chamber of Commerce judging these kids' presentation, and not really kids. They're definitely, passionate students.
Sure.
And again, these weren't all A students. These weren't, people that were all going to college, but they had an interest in something that they weren't exposed to at school. And they latched onto it, and that was exciting to see the light bulb come on. And so that was, to me, real community impact. There's a lot of great national and international programs. For me, water, I started off the conversation talking about my conservation ethic, and water is life.
Right.
Whether it's, talking about wildlife and environmental biology, but especially all of us interconnected. Community doesn't survive without its basic necessities, and one of those is water. And it's where you see people gather. I mean, it's where communities develop, is around where water's available.
Right. Yeah.
And so, internationally, I think that's certainly something that I'm interested in, that I think is exciting to see that there are opportunities and people that have resources that, even though I can't go and engineer something that's not my gift, but I can certainly be part of bringing that life to a community that didn't have that before. When people are spending 8 hours a day just getting water, think about that. We go to the grocery store and complain about waiting in line, and yet here people are going 8 hours a day just to get water. That's why I think it's so important that communities grow when they have those types of resources.
I love this. I'm going to take this conversation way off the rails right now.
Go right ahead.
When it comes to water, right? And both of us being outdoorsmen.
Yeah.
Hike the Appalachian Trail for any amount of multi-day trip.
Yes.
And there's only one focus.
Uh-huh.
Where's your water?
Where's the water going to come at?
Because when you said that, you're saying that 8 hours a day just getting fresh water to your family.
Mm-hmm.
As dramatic as it might sound, I've been on multi-day trips on the AT.
I have too, yeah.
And you don't want to carry too much water.
Too heavy. It's heavy. 8 pounds per gallon. I know that one.
You certainly don't want to run out, because when do we choose to hike?
Right.
Middle of summer It's
Yep.
the worst time to be out there.
Yep, it's super hot.
It's
Yep.
wonderful, but it's so hot. So you got to carry, and you got to budget. But then you have this, this trusty guide on where the next water source is. But you might have to walk a mile downhill to get to it.
Yep.
And then you're already exhausted, so you don't want to commit to a mile downhill to come back uphill to your camp spot. It is funny because without the modern day source of water at the spigot, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and that's where people are putting their attention. I mean, think about it. If you had to spend days getting food for your family and every day going out for water for your family, if you didn't have to do that, what could you be doing? Could you be part of education, educating the kids in your community? Could you build facilities that would further the development of your community?
Right.
So, the few seconds, going to the kitchen to pick up our glass of water versus,
But it all stems around water.
It all stems around water, and that's why I think it is so important. And I had a conservation friend of mine in Water Conservation District who said water's life. And she was talking about it on two ends. One is aquatic life, wildlife biology in general, but also human life. If we don't have water, we don't exist.
Totally true. All right, seriously this time, one last deal.
Yeah.
If somebody was thinking about joining Rotary, what would you tell them? How would you encourage them to participate or sign up?
One, you just got to do it. I mean, it's the old Nike cliche, just do it. Don't hem and haw about it. It's easy to do that because it's easy to make excuses. Too busy. That's the easy one. Oh, I don't have time for this right now. And I get it. We're all super busy. I don't know how you keep your schedule. And I know what my schedule's like. But I think we're all called to give back to our community in some way. And it doesn't mean that you have to be president tomorrow and run this club. It just, in Martinsburg, I had fun just running the presentations at lunch every meeting we had.
That's right.
That was just my little give. That's what I could afford to do at the time. Just make it so no one had to worry about it. And that was my little give. I know some people just like to be greeters. That's their thing. That's their gift. That's what they have time for. Is they come in a half hour earlier, greet everybody that's coming in, and that's meaningful. That's builds community. Some people are called to run the Hope Gala. Some people are meant to run a pickleball tournament. Something a little bigger. But you know what? You don't do it alone. You don't do any of that stuff alone. And so I think that's what some people are fearful of. It's like, I got to get all this commitment. But you're never doing it alone. You're always doing it with friends and people that care about you and care about this community and want to do this together to make it successful. And there are no failures. At the Pancakes for Polio event, whether we serve, 50 people or 500 people, there's still good being done in the community. And that's what it's all about. And at the same time, I flipped some pancakes at one of those events and had some fun times there, and that's all I was doing, was flipping pancakes. Wasn't out front, wasn't making, coffee or collecting registrations or anything, but there's something for everybody and everybody's time commitment, everybody's talent, and you get to make huge community impacts. That's what I like about Rotary is we do all this great stuff, but we're not bragging about it.
Right.
Yes, we announced, hey, we gave this money to make sure this nonprofit or this school was able to do some great good for their kids or for the community. Some people go into it with, how can I put this on my resume? This isn't the place for you. If you're looking to put something in your resume, there's plenty of other places for that. Sure. But if I think we're all called, and I would encourage anybody that wants to give back to the community, Rotary's the place. There's no other better place for it.
It's a community within the community.
It is.
Yeah.
It certainly is, and it's an exciting place. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of silliness that goes on occasionally, and we're serious about stuff too. There's just a room full of smart people. I feel very humbled because I see what these people are doing in their businesses and in their community, and it humbles me to say that they're willing to step up and do this. And I feel honored just to be a small part of that, and that's why I'm in Rotary, and that's why I encourage anybody else to be part of Rotary.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's been a really great conversation. Thanks for being on the podcast.
No, thanks again for inviting me. I enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing more people at Rotary.
All right.